प्रथमं सद्गुरुं वन्दे श्रीकृष्णं तदनन्तरं गुरुः पापात्मनां त्राता श्रीकृष्णस्त्वमलात्मना चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहा दावाग्नि निर्वापणम् श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधू जीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृता स्वादनम् सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नमः कमलनाभाय नमः कमलमालिने नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वं हा देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Eternally devoted souls, let's chant for a few minutes, after which I will begin the topic for this evening. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe
Jai Radhe,
राधे राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे 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 राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे
जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय श्री राधे
जय राधे जय राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe.
बोलिए रासेश्वरी राधा रानी की जय, वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय. Devotional listeners, now I humbly request your full attention as I take up the topic of relationship tips from scriptures. We would be naive to think that scriptures have nothing to do with daily life. On the contrary, they have everything to do with daily life and how we should live it. Scriptures teach us how to have harmony in daily life. Of course, they teach us how to have that best of all relationships, the greatest of all relationships, the relationship with God. But they also, in the process, they also teach us how to live with others, family members, friends, and the like. How to live in the world harmoniously. We have many relationships with parents. We have relationship with parents, with siblings. There's relationship between two spouses, relationship between parents and children, relationship with friends. So there are many relationships. And these relationships present many challenges. There are many difficulties in navigating these relationships. What can we learn from scriptures? And in the first place, why do we have so many difficulties? Why are there so many challenges? The Vedas tell us why. They say, Aja mekam lohita shukla krishnam bahvihi prajaha srijamanam sarupah Shveta Shvatropanishad. This Upanishad, this verse from the Shveta Shvatropanishad tells us that Maya is tricolored. Maya is white, red, and black. And everyone who is controlled by Maya is automatically controlled by these three modes of Maya: Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. These three gunas, these three modes of Maya, are like three, you can think of them as three wrestlers in a wrestling arena. Each one of the three is trying to defeat the other two. Sometimes, and only very rarely, Sattvagun wins, the mode of goodness. And then when Sattvagun wins within us, then we become very pious, we become very kind, compassionate, we become very understanding, we become our best version, we become really, really good. When Sattvagun is the predominant mode within us, in our mind. Sometimes a wrestler called Rajogun wins, and we are, at that point, we are okay. We are not so good, we are not so bad. We are more worldly than anything else. And when the wrestler named Tamogun wins, then we are quick to anger. We become very frustrated. We find faults with others. We are then the worst possible versions of ourselves. We are at our best when Sattvagun, the mode of goodness and virtue, wins. We are at our worst when Tamogun wins, the mode of darkness. Now imagine, if you will, that these three modes are like three wrestlers in the arena of everyone's mind. And everyone has these three modes, each one trying to defeat the other two and to become the predominant mode. So, everyone in the world is being ruled by these three modes of Maya, and no one knows which mode is going to win at what time. It's not as if they say, it's not as if it's declared, a Sattva Gun will be the predominant mode at 3 o'clock in the evening, and it will be the predominant mode till 7:05 p.m. It doesn't happen like that. We don't know which mode will win. Because of these modes, we go into our different moods. Sometimes we say about others, oh, she's so moody. He's very moody. Do we not realize that we're all moody? The modes of Maya make us moody. Sometimes we're in a very pious mood, sometimes we're in an angry mood, sometimes we're in a worldly mood. We're in different moods because of Maya and its three modes, three guna. Let's say that two people, let's say husband and wife, they are at the same time, simultaneously they are ruled predominantly by Sattva-gun, the mode of goodness. You would think that they would have a very harmonious relationship at that time at least. It's not necessary. Because even if two people who are very closely related to one another, even if they are being ruled by the same mode of Maya, it may be that within the husband, the sattvic mode is present now 90%. Within the wife, only 45%. So both of them decide one evening, he decides, let's go to the lecture. And if she is in a different mood, let's say Rajasic mood, she will say, no, I want to go to the movies. But let's say that both of them are feeling sattvic. So he suggests that they go to Yugal Kunj to hear a lecture. She says, all right, I'm with you. And they're both sitting, listening to the lecture or listening to satsang. And after about 15-20 minutes, she looks at the watch, she goes, chalo, let's go. And he said, nahi, ruko. Stay. Because he's feeling very sattvic, she's feeling little sattvic. Within her, it's 45% sattva gun. Within him, 90%. So she will keep poking him. Let's go. Many years ago, husband and wife came to Mangar, and they were alongside with everyone else. They were sitting at the lotus feet of Shri Maharaj Ji in that wonderful place called Angan in the courtyard. And the conversation between them was so loud enough that everybody could hear it. And he was saying, chalo, vidai le lo Maharaj Ji se. Let's ask Maharaj Ji we just tell Maharaj Ji we're leaving. She's saying, nahi, kuch din rukenge. And he's saying, she was saying, no, let's stay for a few more days. We have nothing to go back to. And he was saying, no, let's go. And even Maharaj Ji is listening to them. Maharaj Ji is listening to them, and he was having a grand old time. So she won in the end. She won in that she stayed and he left. But they're both following the same guru. They both are in the guru's ashram, but they were both feeling sattvic. That's why they ended up in the ashram. But he was not feeling so sattvic after all. He said, enough is enough now. Enough association with the saint, with the Jagat Guru Uttam. Now let's go back. Sri Maharaj Ji used to say, when somebody would say, Maharaj Ji, I'm going now. Maharaj Ji would say, why do you want to go back to your narak? Why do you want to go back to the same hell with fights, arguments, this and that? Why don't you stay a little bit longer? Why don't you stay? Why are you in such a hurry? And he said that because of his all-encompassing compassion for everyone. Anyhow, so even if two people who are in a very close relationship with one another, even if they're both feeling sattvic, it's not necessary that it's not that they would have an easy time with one another. because of the intensity of that mode. So it's very surprising that any two people should be getting along together. It's very normal, it's just natural that two people should not be getting along because both are controlled by Maya, both have these three modes, and neither one knows which mode will overwhelm him or her. That's why we shouldn't be surprised why there are problems and challenges in relationships. It's very natural there to be challenges. And then another thing is sanskars from the past. Everyone brings along their own sanskars. Sanskars, these subtle impressions left on the mind due to the thoughts we have entertained in countless previous lives. These sanskars are different in everyone. They're members of the same family, all right? They are children of the same parents, all right? But they're very different from one another. One is very quick to anger, another is very calm and hardly ever gets angry. Another is very ambitious, worldly, in a worldly way. Another, fourth one, is very ambitious in a spiritual way. They're so different from one another. Their likes and dislikes are totally different from one another because of different sanskars. Where have they come from? They've come from different places. They've come with different sanskars. Ek pita ke vipul kumara, ho hi prithak gunshil achara, Tulsidas ji writes. One father and many children, but those children are very different from one another. Anyway, so that is the reason behind the challenges that everyone faces in relationships. But now the more important question is, how can scriptures help us how can they help us have harmonious relationships with family members and friends? One overall concept, the umbrella concept, is respect. Whether it's in marriage, whether it's between husband and wife, or it's between parents and children, or between two friends, deep respect must be there. Gauranga Mahaprabhuji says, Mana dena, give respect to one and all. Don't mind that others don't give you respect, but you go ahead and give respect to everyone. Jagat Guru Uttam Shri Kripaluji Maharaj writes in Radha Govind Geet, Sabka samman karo, Govind Radhe, sabke hain ur baithe, Krishna bata de. Everyone has Shri Krishna sitting within his heart. So have deep respect for everyone. Not just for those who are older than you, but even for those who are younger than you. Sri Maharajji would be speaking to little children who were 80 years younger than him, but when he spoke to those children, he looked at them in the eye, he listened to them, he paid them so much attention. And he came to their level. As he came to everyone's level. He would come to the children's level and he would relate to them. And I always thought that was deep respect for the children. He had deep respect for anyone who came to him. If there's no respect in a marriage, that marriage is doomed. It's full of fights, quarrels, arguments. Of course, no two people think alike. There are going to be disagreements. But let's say there are two people, whichever relationship they have. Wake up. Keep your eyes open, please. This is important. You all have relationships. It's important to hear what scriptures have to say. So, you may not agree with the other person, but agree to disagree. Yes, we have our own individual thoughts. We have seen firsthand, we have heard in the news about so many families who became divided because some of the family followed, Some were Republicans, others were Democrats. They could not understand each other. I don't understand how you can support this one. And I don't understand what's wrong with you. Parents and children had problems with one another. Spouses had major problems with each other. The tempers got flared and the emotions were very high. For what? Because they thought differently. They had different affiliations. But what about the respect? I respect you, that you feel this way, but I don't feel that way. And I feel this way, you feel that way, and let's accept that. Let's not talk about it. Let's accept each other's, let's accept that we are not going to agree on this. That's respect. We tend to respect those who are in our favor. Am I right? Those who are agreeable, who agree with us, we say, oh wow, that's great, you're wonderful. We tend to praise those who like us. But what about those who don't agree with us and those who criticize us? Deep respect for everyone. Because those critics, those who disagree with us, they're probably in our own family. They're in your family. They're in your friend circle. They are co-workers. It's not that you have to look far away. You just look in your own family and you'll find those people there. So respect is the key word here in any relationship. Having respect for the other person means that you listen to the other person and listen carefully. Not what you want to hear, but what is the other person saying? Quite often we don't even hear the other person. And we just go with what we think he or she is saying. I told you about the time when I was singing in a temple and I was saying, Prem mein hai sada dena dena. And there was a gentleman whose voice everybody could hear, and I could hear it too. He was saying loudly, Prem mein hai sada lena dena. No matter how many times I tried to correct that, he always said lena dena, I gave up. I suppose he wasn't listening properly. He said, of course, prem, love means to give and take. So I said it about 5 times, dena, dena. He said, lena, dena. I said, I give up. Put up the white flag. I surrender. So we need to listen to the other person. What is the other person saying? And that listening is not just done with our ears. It has to have the mind involved. It has to have that deep respect. Your words are important. Your views are important. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. We often get so busy talking that, the other person saying something and we say, never mind you, this is what I think. I knew a person who actually said that. Never mind, let me tell you what I think. And that was, to her, that was completely normal. We need to listen. And we need to give others benefit of the doubt. The husband needs to do that. He needs to give the wife benefit of the doubt. She needs to do the same with him. You need to do that with siblings. You need to do that with friends. We all need to do that. Let's give them benefit of the doubt. That means having respect for the other person. I once read a children's storybook in which, it was one of the older ones, and it talked about a family that was living on a farm, and the mother said to her son, before you go to sleep, make sure that the stables are locked. They are closed, the door is closed, and locked. So he said, Mama, I'll do that. The next morning when she got up, she was very disturbed to see that the stable doors were wide open. And she scolded her son and said, why didn't you close the doors? And he said, I did, but you didn't. He said, but I did. And she scolded him and she said, well, be very careful tonight. Make sure you don't forget. He closed them. But next morning again, they were open. And she said, this is too much. This is too much. You're absolutely not listening to me. He said, Mother, I promise. I did lock the stable doors. And then she decided that she would find out what's going on with him. And that night, he closed the stable doors, he locked them, and then he went to sleep. Then she found out that her son had been sleepwalking. And he was going there to the stables and opening the gates, and then coming back to sleep. A lot of people sleepwalk. So she said, oh, right, I should have given him benefit of the doubt. He was telling the truth, and I thought he was telling a lie. He had gotten into a lot of trouble from his mother. So sometimes we are wrong about the judgments of others, regarding others. We judge others, but our judgment may not be right. We have to be humble enough. And in this part of this respect comes humility. Humility, which is so important. Let me be humble enough to accept what this person is saying. Let me not just say, oh, you're telling a lie, this is terrible, you're not right. No, maybe my experience is wrong. Perhaps I'm wrong in thinking this way. It also means not judging, not being judgmental. Not being judgmental at all. Remember the story about the wife who thought that her husband was an atheist through and through? And one night she heard him saying Radhe as he was falling asleep, and he wasn't aware he said that. And she became so happy that next morning she started celebrating, and she was in a very chirpy mood, and he asked her, what's going on? And you seem to be cooking a lot, and you decorated the house. What's going on? She couldn't sleep all night. Oh my goodness, my husband, he said Radhe. He took the name of God. He's not a pakka atheist. He's not a total disbeliever. There's some hope, she thought. Well, when she told him what the occasion was all about, she said, I heard you say Radhe last night. And then he was shocked. He said, oh my, I let the name of my dearest Radhe escape from my heart. And he lost consciousness. He was so shocked that he let Radha escape from his heart. It saddened him so much. She was being so judgmental towards him that, oh, he's an atheist, pakka nastik hai ye to, pata nahi maa baap ne kyun shaadi kar di iske saath. And it turned out that he was a bigger believer than she was. All the saints who have come to this world, they were judged, and they were judged very harshly. But today we revere them, we honor them, we respect them. But earlier we were judgmental towards them when they were here on earth. Even if it is someone who has committed many, many mistakes, there's always hope that that person will uplift himself. Shri Maharaji has said, it takes but a moment for the greatest devotee to fall and for the greatest sinner to rise. So we're concerned with the greatest sinner rising to the occasion. He's rising and he is now a saint. Do we not know about Ratnakar, who was a dacoit and a murderer? He became a saint in the same lifetime. We know him as Vishwamitra. He was killing people. He was looting them. He was committing so many heinous crimes, sins, and yet he was redeemed. He redeemed himself. So we must not be judgmental towards anyone, because what will happen is that we will think ourselves to be very, very good. Paradosh jani dekho Govind Radhe. Shri Maharaji says, do not look at the faults of others. And do not look at your own virtues. Do not look at your own virtues and do not look at the others' faults, because this is very detrimental to you, and this will result in very poor relationship. You're always looking at the other person's fault. You know, what's wrong with you is this. You are lazy, you have no ambition, you're careless, this, and this. If a child is told this, let's talk about the relationship between parents and children. If the child is told, you will not amount to anything, then the child says, I will not amount to anything. And the child will not amount to anything, because that's the message she's receiving. A teacher told a child, you are just not going to succeed in life. You're too foolish. You're not bright. But the child's mother told him, you are amazing. You're so good. You're going to succeed so much in life. And that child, because of the mother's reinforcement, my mother thinks I'm going to be amazing. And his mother's words carried such an effect that he became successful, wildly successful. He became a great scientist. There was a mother, I read about this, there was a mother who hid the report cards that the child was getting. And the teacher had all bad things to say about the child. Nothing positive, only negative. And the mother said, oh, your teacher thinks you're brilliant. You're really good. And that positive enforcement helped the child greatly. So, in these relationships, especially when we are shaping young minds, it's so important to give positive reinforcement. Look at the virtues of another. Sri Maharaj Ji did that so well. If there was a little virtue in someone, he would magnify it. And there were so many faults, and he would minimize them. Oh, no, he's not like that. He's very good. There could be so many faults, so many crimes that person has committed, but Sri Maharaj Ji would look at that person, and that would be everyone who went to him. So many sins have been committed, Maharaj Ji would not look at those. He would embrace everyone, looking at the virtues of that person. So we can learn from such great personalities, from such a great personality, that we should also do the same. Another way we can respect the people we have various relationships with is to speak kindly and to speak sweetly. Saint Tulsidas Ji tells us in this context, Tulsi meethe vachan te sukh upjat chahur vashikaran yah mantra hai taji de vachan kathor. Do not speak harsh words. Speak sweetly. That doesn't mean that you put on an act. It starts from the mind. It starts from the heart. Speak sweetly. Have sweetness in your heart and speak sweet words. Because these sweet words will distribute happiness everywhere. A cuckoo bird has a sweet voice. Koyal kako det hai. Kaga ka sun let. A crow does not have a pleasant sound. A saint has said, the cuckoo bird, what does it give to someone? But everyone loves the cuckoo bird. And the crow does not take anything away from anyone, but its harsh words don't please anyone. So having respect for family members and friends and associates means to speak kindly to them, to speak sweetly to them. That you are worthy of sweet words. You are worthy of kind words. I think you are so good that you don't deserve harsh words. You don't deserve a scolding all the time. Sri Maharaj Ji used to have great fun with his very animated ways. He used to mimic people of the world. He would say, let's say there's husband and wife, and the husband says, why is this cream here, over here? And she says, where should I put it? On your head? And then he would say something, and she would say something. It would be like Sursa and Hanuman. Where should I put it? On your head? But she could just say, oh, well, no, let me put it away. Or can you please put it away? It would be the end of the conversation. That's it. Or it's like, hey, move away from here. Go, move. Rather than that, say, can you please do me a favor? Can you move from here? Words can enhance a relationship, they can totally spoil a relationship. Words and words alone, they're so powerful. We could not wait to hear Sri Maharaji's words. We would hang on to each and every word of his because his words were so sweet. They were giving so much knowledge. They were so valuable. And when he spoke to us individually, we were so delighted. There was so much love in his words because that came from his heart. There was that love for everyone. Everyone felt, Maharaji loves me the most. Not that it was a competition, but everyone was happy also that Maharaji is giving so much attention to this one and that one and to everyone, but you felt that he loves you the most. That is amazing. We can learn. We can learn from the best. We should learn from the best. We should learn from Jagat Guru Uttam himself. That is how he conducted himself with others. That's how he behaved with others. Respecting the other person also means that you don't show the other person that you have more knowledge or you have more money or you have more beauty or some talent that the other person doesn't have. Humility is so important. Trinadapi sunichena. One must be very humble. We must be very humble. The other person and every person we meet is very special. And I don't say that as it's not just something to be said. It's not just clever words. It's not just words to appease everyone, but fact is, everyone has something special inside of them. And there's not a single person who has all the virtues and all the talents. Have you ever met anyone who has all the talents, all the virtues, all the possible knowledge? It's impossible. And in every relationship, we must try to find out and highlight the virtues that person has, the talents that person has. Because we must never forget that having respect for the other person also means that we should try to see God who is in that person. Why do we forget that? We forget that there is God living inside of him and living inside of that person, whoever that person may be, whatever relationship we may have. Oftentimes we see that when it comes to two people who are very closely related, they will be very good with people outside their family. They're very kind, they're very helpful, very compassionate. But with their own family members, totally opposite. I knew of a couple, they're both wonderful people, but he was just the best friend you could have. He would give you the shirt off his back. And everyone, all his friends said, my gosh, he is an amazing guy. He's like a devta. He's so wonderful. He's helped me so much. Another would say, he helped me so much. He's helping me in this way. And his wife would be crying. He doesn't stay at home, doesn't give any attention to the kids. So quite often we take the people we are closest to for granted, and we are good for the whole world. We can see God in other people. Why not see God in the people we are closest to? It all starts at home. Charity begins at home. When I speak with children, I often talk about how their relationship is with their parents, how they should behave towards their parents. Because a child would not behave with a stranger or with some outsider, with a casual acquaintance in the same way as a child behaves with his or her own mother and father. You could say, well, yeah, they're the safe place. The child can, lash out, this and that. But it could be a child towards a parent, it could be parents towards a child, it could be any two people. But the fact is, why don't we see God in the ones we are closely related to? Those relationships suffer greatly when we fail to see that there is God sitting inside. It's very tempting to take the people we are closest to for granted. It's very, very easy to do that. But these are the people you are closely, the most intimately connected to. And they get the version of you which is the worst version. And outsiders, strangers, they get your best version. They get you at your best, and the ones who mean the most to you, they get you at your worst. That often happens with us. That we give our best to the outsiders, we give our worst to those with whom we have long-standing relationships. I caught myself doing that. That, people I feel closest to, I'm not so kind to them. I'm taking them for granted. And that realization was a powerful one, that this is not the way it should happen. You should not, I should not behave in a different way towards the people I feel close to. They should get the best version of me, like others do. They should. I try to present my best version before others. Why not with people who I closely associate with? So I'm telling you my own example. And I think you can agree with that, and think that you can also identify with that. Our scriptures tell us, they give us so much information, they give us so much knowledge that helps us greatly to have wonderful relationships. Who wants to have fights and quarrels and disagreements at home? When the home becomes Mahabharata, Kurukshetra, where Mahabharata is taking place every day. Mahabharata war, it lasted for 18 days. But that Mahabharata at home, it lasts whole lifetime if we are not careful. The Mahabharata at home, within two friends, between two siblings, sometimes there's no talking to each other. You are dead to me, and yes, you are dead to me, and there's no talking, there is no conversation, there's no understanding, nothing. Our scriptures teach us humility, they teach us tolerance. These are very, very important virtues. Humility and tolerance, they go a long way. Two people say, oh, we love each other. But if they don't have that deep respect for one another, the love will fly away. The love is not going to last. In any marriage, respect is number one. I respect you. There was a young lady who told me, oh, I don't go to satsang because my husband doesn't like it. And every time I talk about going to satsang, he gets a sad face. Muh ban jata hai usko. And I asked her, is there a reason that you care that he has a long face? Because some people have long face, some people have a wide face. He has a long face. Why does it matter? She thought about it and she said, because I feel that he won't love me if I go to satsang. And I said, does he love you? He must love you a lot right now. She said, actually not quite. Because he insults me in front of our friends. In front of our friends, I can hear him saying, oh, she's lazy. Doesn't do anything around the house. I said, that's very disrespectful. It is. So do you call that love? I suppose not. So she analyzed it. She said, that's not love. It is not love. When there's no respect, what kind of love is that? What are you looking for? Why are you not going to satsang? Just because of him getting a long face and you think he won't love you when he already doesn't love you? Because love means to have respect for the other person. To look at their interest and sometimes do what he wants you to do, and sometimes he should do what you want him to do. There was a devotee and many years ago, and she said, my husband, he goes on many trips because he's a physician and he goes to many conferences all over the world, and I don't want to go with him. My advice to her was, sometimes you should go. You should go sometimes. And he should come sometimes. He comes with you to satsang sometimes. You should go to conferences at times. But I don't like it over there. But respect him enough to go there, and you can do Rup Dhyan There's nothing to say that no one can tell you that you can't do Rup Dhyan in Cancun or in Israel or Turkey, wherever the conferences are held. She said, I suppose you're right. And when she went to India, she asked Sri Maharaji, Maharaji, my husband goes to conferences, I don't want to go. Maharaji says, you're a married woman. You need to go with your husband. And you need to go. And he should come to satsang with you. That you're interested in satsang. His is not, but he does. She said he does come sometimes. Well, then you should also go sometimes to the conferences. Give and take. Have respect for one another. Yes, he doesn't have interest in satsang. Does that make him a bad person? Is he a rakshas because of that? Or is she a demoness because of that? No. Everyone is at their own spiritual journey. Everybody's at a different level, and we should respect that. Sometimes an aspiring devotee starts thinking, my family members, they're just like that. They're just nothing. Because they don't have love for my guru. They don't have love for God. But that doesn't make them bad. That doesn't make them evil. They have so much goodness in them. Can you not see it? And if you don't see it, then you're not following the principles of devotion. We're supposed to see the goodness in even demons, and these are humans who have so many talents and so many virtues. And when we see that, they are non-devotees, that means you're a devotee? Who is a devotee? No, I'm trying to be a devotee. That's the reality. I'm trying to be a devotee. A devotee is one whose mind doesn't ever stop thinking about God. Na chalati bhagavat padara vinda lava nimishardham api yasa vaishnavagriha bhagavatam. A Vaishnava, a devotee of God, is one who does not stop thinking of God even for a fraction of a moment. Now we have to ask ourselves, are you there yet? No, but not by any means. Then why are you judging them? Before Sri Maharaji came into my life, I had gone to an ashram in Canada. And there I heard a conversation between two ashramvasis. And they were talking about devotees and non-devotees. Devotees and worldly people. And they were speaking about worldly people in a very disrespectful way. And I instinctively thought, this is not where I want to be, where people are talking, where they're just disrespecting someone who is not following their path. Instinctively, I was turned off. Not that I was turned off and then I left, but that conversation, I felt that's not befitting someone who's on the devotional path. So someone who's on the devotional path should have amazing relationships with parents, with their children, the spouse if they're married, with everyone. Because now they have understood, they have learned spiritual concepts. And those spiritual concepts, if we put them to use every day, then we will have harmonious relationships with everyone, within the family. It will be like Satyug within the family. It won't be like Kali Yuga. The house will become an ashram. It will become a holy place because there's peace and calmness. And that is not to say that everybody's following the principles, but because you are. And you're diffusing lots of angry outbursts and a lot of angry situations. You're diffusing them using your knowledge. Yes, the other members or the other person has not heard that knowledge, and so that person is not fully equipped to diffuse the situation, but you are. You are, because you are a disciple of Jagat Guru Uttam Shri Kripaluji Maharaj. So you can diffuse the situation. You can bring about calmness and peace in the family by not retorting, not replying in an angry way just because the other person is. And when the other person is speaking angry words, giving respect to that person means having respect for the person that you're related to, means understanding that person. Perhaps she's had a hard day. Perhaps someone has said something. Perhaps he's not feeling well. Let me forgive. Forgiveness is of the paramount importance in a relationship. Our scriptures teach us to forgive. Forgive. Forgiving is very liberating. Rather than holding on in our hearts what that person said out of anger, and those words were said 5 years prior, and I'm holding on to them, and I am bitter towards you because of that, and I'm reminding you. Has it ever happened to you that someone has reminded you in a state of anger everything that you've done wrong over the years? Let me ask you, have you ever reminded someone else in your family everything they've done wrong? One thing happens and say, remember last week you did that? And then last year you said that? And then you didn't listen to me that time, last Diwali? And then everything comes out. We don't forgive, we hold on to that. We forget the goodness. Again, I was visiting a family. I'm always visiting, used to be visiting a lot more. I was always staying with different people in their homes, and they became my family. And to this day, many of them I regard them as my family. But there were 2 children in that family, and the girl, she was very small, and the devotee who was with me, she was traveling with me, she was with me, and she said to the mother and father, look, I will get her ready in the morning and I'll put her on the bus. So it just so happened that that little girl was put on the wrong bus. No tragedy, because she still reached the school, but she was on the wrong bus and everything was fine. And it happened a couple of times and everything got settled and everything was fine. But this lady was helping. She would bathe her, that little girl, she would get her ready, she would brush her hair, this and that, give her breakfast, all that was done. And then one day, I think a few months later, I said, do you remember so-and-so? And guess what the little girl said? She goes, yeah, that was the lady who put me on the wrong bus. She didn't say, that was the lady who gave me breakfast. She became like a mother to me. She was so kind to me. She just remembered those 2 days when she was put on that was the lady who put me on the wrong bus. I said, wow, okay. Again, there was a child and he was complaining about some adult. This auntie, she scolded me. And so I said, that's funny. You never told me that this auntie, she treated you like her son. She has been treating you like her own child. You are free to come to her house whenever. And she feeds you. She lets you sleep in her house whenever your parents agree to that. And so once she scolded you, thinking that you are her own, and you come to me, how dare you? He said, I'm sorry. Why don't you tell me about all the times she was so loving to you? She was so kind to you. You forgot all that? We need to forgive. We need to be very forgiving, like God has forgiven us. God forgives. Our Gurudev forgives. How much forgiveness he gives. Otherwise there would be no hope for us. In one of Maharajji's songs from Prem Ras Madhira, Shri Maharajji says, Daya chaho nahi nyay, dayamay. Oh my merciful Lord, I beg for your mercy, not for your justice. Because you're so merciful, I know that I need forgiveness for my sins. I don't need you to be the neutral judge who punishes me. I need your compassion. I need your forgiveness. And that is something that we need to give to those with whom we have relationships, various relationships. We need to forgive them, and that's good for us as well. It's not just good for the others, it's good for us to let go of all that anger and the grudges that we hold on to. They don't do us any good. They harm our relationships, they harm our spirituality, and all the advice that scriptures give us, the Vedas and Vedic scriptures, all the advice they give us, it's not just so that we can have a great relationship with God. It is also so that we can have a great relationship with those we call our very own. So scriptures and saints give us very, very valuable relationship tips. They tell us how to relate to people in our family. They teach us how to relate with family members and with friends and and fellow co-workers, fellow satsangis, whoever you're associating with. And so their advice, the advice of the scriptures and saints, it needs to be valued, it needs to be followed, so that we may have harmony in life, so that we may practice devotion more diligently and easily. Boliye Ladli Lal ki Jai, Srimad Sadguru Sarkar ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.